Welcome to the Redzone Challenge Expert Picks, brought to you by Firestone Walker Brewing Company, featuring so-called experts Jeff Kingman,
Redface.
I think Redface is a good name for him here.
But Tom Coughlin.
Coughlin, yes.
Jeremy West,
I am the biggest Tim Tebow fan as of right now.
and full-time Firestone Walker beer guy, part-time degenerate gambler, Ollie,
I'm probably going to get in trouble at work for talking about beer bongs here. So everybody drink responsibly.
who will experience 80 ounces in hell. Find out with this week's picks in the Redzone Challenge, presented by Firestone Walker Brewing Company in Paso Robles, California.
NFL season underway, actually. A little underway. We're late. All good beer drinkers are late to the party, right, Ollie? You don't want to show up on time. You want to be fashionably late.
Always fashionably late.
This is the Red
I'm
Zone.
never on time to anything.
This is the Red Zone Challenge podcast, where we are going to pick the 5 closest games of the week to aid you in helping you win a trip to Las Vegas to see the Jabberwockies at the MGM Grand. It's all brought to you by Firestone Walker Brewing Company. What is some exciting stuff going on at Firestone Walker right now, Ollie?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Right now, we're in the middle of making our Velvet Mocha Merlin, which is going to be our winter release this year. It's a little variation on the Mocha Merlin on the Velvet Merlin that we made the last couple of years. But this year, we're going to add coffee from Scout's Coffee. We've added that actually cold side in the brew itself. And then we're also adding cocoa nibs into the beer. So it gives it a nice chocolate coffee finish.
What is a cocoa nib?
So like cocoa powder, the stuff you would bake with.
Yeah.
A cocoa nib essentially is the whole form of that, and so it doesn't have any real sweetness, but what it does have is a nice chocolate aroma and chocolate flavor, and so the sweetness of the beer kind of balances it all out, along with the coffee. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. We tried a little different variation this year where we actually dumped the coffee straight into the tank instead of teabagging it in there. And not only was that a pain in the arse to clean out, it was a pain in the arse to dump. So we'll see how it all goes. But it's a labor of love. Let's just put it that way. These cellar guys weren't too stoked on having to take care of that one.
Yeah, I imagine it's like one of those cleanup projects that you're like, oh, Jesus. Like, so last night, we had a water leak at my house. I got a call the other day from the water department, and they're like, they say, hey, you're using twice the water that you used last month. Do you know why? And I'm like, no.
Oh, no.
No clue why. A water heater's leaking. And I rent, so I'm cool with it. I'm just like, the landlord's going to take care of it. Well, when he bought the house, they put a 40-gallon water heater into this closet space, and what happens, I'm sure they bought the water heater thinking that it would fit, but it didn't fit. So what they did is they went in and they had to remove all kinds of drywall. So the guy shows up to replace the water heater. He's like, I can't replace that thing. That's going to take me literally 10 hours to do. So yesterday he started at 12. He left our house. He had to take our kitchen door off the hinges in order to move the thing in and out and work on it. And he ended up leaving our house at 8. He still has 2 hours of work he's got to do this afternoon.
You're giving me nightmares because my water heater's from 1976.
Oh, wow.
And it's still kicking right now.
Well,
I don't know if it calcified on the bottom of that sucker and it just won't break or what, but
the old adage is that they don't make it like they used to. I think you're okay, because this one was made in 2003, which probably doesn't help you sleep any easier, but I was shocked and astonished that it was not operational and it was leaking water all over the place.
That sucks.
Yeah.
And you're renting, though?
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah, but it wasn't, the plumber didn't care nonetheless. He wasn't too happy. I mean, I like, at some point at like 7:15 last night, I was like, so you get paid for the job, or do you get overtime? He goes, no, I get overtime. Don't worry about it. I'm getting paid for doing your job. Because it was that bad. I hope you're paying
Have
those.
you ever run into a happy plumber? That's the real question, though.
Yeah, at least the guy's cleaning the coffee grounds out of the hopper. At least they get some beer to go home with.
Exactly.
Okay, let's get to the picks. Jeremy has given me his picks as he is under the weather at the time of the recording of this. So, do you want his picks first, or do you want his picks last? Now, I have the benefit of seeing them in front of me, so I can extend that benefit to you, or do you not want it to influence you in any way?
I don't need his picks. Okay. I can see why he called in sick after looking at the slate of games here. So, personally, yeah, I was looking at the games that you had chose because they're so close to the line, and a couple of them are just coin flips, and some of them, it'll be interesting to see what Atlanta comes out and does this week because. Atlanta, had a hard time with the Bears, which makes me have a hard time believing that they're going to be great this year. But then again, it's just the first week, so I don't want to overreact. So, how do you want to do this? Do you want to pick first?
Well, since you started there, let's go with Green Bay and Atlanta because it is one of the games that we've got picked. Atlanta's a 3-point favorite over Green Bay at home, and a lot of people talking about what was part of the Atlanta Falcons' success formula was Shanahan, and with his departure, don't expect as much from the Atlanta Falcons this year, and that's kind of what you're saying you saw when they played Chicago.
Yeah, the one thing I will say, though, I think San Francisco would trade Shanahan back there if they could get a couple more people on their defensive line or offensive line, because, boy, oh boy, San Francisco looked terrible this last week. Don't mean to upset
It's a rebuilding process. It's a process. Ali.
I'm sure you're really crying being a Seattle fan yourself, though. Yeah. You're like, any team to beat up San Francisco, you're probably happy with. But
as I look at the line and it's 13, let's just say that's not one of the games we're going to be picking this week.
No, the one thing I personally have Green Bay going in this week. I think Aaron Rodgers looked pretty good. He got better throughout the game last week, and I can totally see that momentum going into this next week. And if that, if that defense plays like they did, now mind you, being a Seattle fan, your offensive line's not very good.
Yes.
But if that defense carries over into this week, I like Green Bay going into Atlanta and scoring some points. I would think that this is going to be a high-scoring game, but yeah, we'll see. I think Atlanta needs a couple more weeks to really get stuff put together, so I'm taking Green Bay, and I'm taking them.
Jeremy is taking Green Bay straight up, and I am taking Green Bay straight up on this one because Atlanta does not have what Seattle had, and Seattle lost to Green Bay, and that is the defense. Seattle had a defense, and that was supposed to keep them in the game, but Aaron Rodgers, too skilled of a play caller, even against a good defense, to expose chinks in the armor, and that's how they ended up winning that game. Same thing is going to happen in Atlanta, but probably more so with a not as skilled defense. Okay, what game you want to move to next?
Well, let's talk about Tennessee and Jacksonville. Okay. Another game that should be pretty darn close. I liked what I saw with Tennessee, even with them getting beat up by the Raiders. I really like that young quarterback. Second year, I think he's looking good. However, I'm going to take Jacksonville.
Whoa!
And the reason I'm going to take Jacksonville here is that defense looks tough. And if they can game manage with that terrible quarterback that they have like they did last week, and they get that run going with Fournette again, and they give him, 20, 30 carries, I think we got a game here. And I'm going to take Jacksonville to go ahead and to win that game here. So
the darling pick, the Tennessee Titans, the darling pick of the AFC South going into the beginning of the season is going to start 0-2, is what you're saying?
Yes, I am. I am definitely saying that here.
I am saying the same thing only because, and you brought it up. And my reasoning on this is, if it seems like they've got a better scheme on how to run the offense there with their new regime, and it was probably top down, of course, from God, what's his name? The guy that used to coach the Giants. You know his name, Ollie. Redface.
Oh God! Now you got me.
Come on, how can we forget his name? Well, he's now the GM of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I think Redface is a good name for him here.
Tom Coughlin. Tom Coughlin.
Yes. God, that's
Tom
pathetic.
Coughlin was a run first guy in New York, and he's obviously brought that philosophy over to Jacksonville and a run first guy in Jacksonville. And even if Fournette has problems, which he didn't see a lot of action in the preseason as far in the injury department, you have depth at running back with the Jacksonville Jaguars, which makes them sneaky throughout the season. And like you said, that defense looks solid. I mean, like nails against Houston. I mean, let's not forget, Houston was supposed to win that game and got annihilated at home by the whipping post of the AFC South. And I think
not only that, they concussed 5 of those players who probably aren't playing tomorrow night or tonight.
Absolutely.
Whatever this airs.
Yeah, this will be on the web today, and then tomorrow we'll talk about it a little bit on the air. So you're right. Most of those guys aren't going to play tomorrow night. So I think this is a tough as nails Jacksonville defense, and Jacksonville's going to be one of those teams all year that people are. It's going to be like until week 6 or 7 comes around, but I think you're right. And I think Jeremy's right on this one, too. We all got Jacksonville winning this game at home, their first home game of the season. Let's move to the Chargers and the Dolphins. When we spoke yesterday, we had a lot to say about the Los Angeles Chargers. Head coach has come out and said that he expects more from Melvin Gordon on this one. Do you think, in this matchup between the Chargers and the Dolphins, do you think this energizes Gordon, or do you think this pisses him off to where he goes in the opposite direction?
I don't know how much more you can get from a guy who was pretty much your entire offense that game, so I don't know why he would come out and say that and try to piss him off. I will say that was some of the worst play calls on offense that I've seen, probably for that entire first slate of games. I was hopeful when the Chargers got rid of their head coach that they were going to bring somebody in here who could actually get those guys playing and playing right, because they've always had a lot of talent the last 2 to 3 years, but between the injury bug and bad luck and bad coaching, they seem to just fall apart. Now, we haven't seen what Miami can do thanks to the hurricane there, but it's such a coin toss. I'm still going to go with the Chargers this week, even as the favorites going into Miami. I don't trust Miami right now. It's hard to say what Cutler still has in the tank. He was about to be an announcer there for a minute, and then they pulled him back in. So I'm taking the Chargers. I'm going to give them another week here and see what they can do. Not too concerned with Melvin Gordon, but boy, they gotta figure out some better play calls than run pass. So everybody's got to figure that one out.
If this game, if the Monday night game if it would have ended 24-7, I think I would have picked Miami in this one. But because it ended 24-21, I'm blinded by the score is what's jumping out on the page for me against who knows what we've got in Miami. But I'm going to say this, where the Chargers have a ton of talent and skill positions, Miami's got times 10 in my eyes. The better receiving core. Now the quarterback, I'm not a huge Phillip Rivers fan, but I'm also really not a huge Jay Cutler fan. But as far as that Melvin Gordon, Jay Ajayi, I kind of side with the coach on the Chargers on this one. I think Jay Ajayi, more explosiveness and a week of rest going into this game. I think Miami's going to come out here onto the West Coast, and they've been here practicing because they wanted to get the hell out of Dodge. So they're not going to have any time issues to deal with or anything along those lines. An extra week to prepare. I think Miami wins this one. I think it's going to be a close one. because it seems like the Chargers, I think they'll go to school on what you're talking about, and they need to have better play calling, and I think they will have better play calling this week. I just think a better rested Miami team will come in and shock the Chargers. I think it's an advantage for both Tampa Bay and Miami this week to have that week off to start the season and kind of see what everybody else, especially their upcoming opponents initially, have in the tank. Jeremy also picking with you on this one, Ali. He picked the Chargers on that one. So we'll move now to Dallas and Denver. Dallas is a 2-point favorite over Denver at Mile High. Did this kind of surprise you that this was the line on this?
Not particularly. In what way do you think that Dallas being favored going in there?
Yeah, I mean, just being a home dog. Again, I know Dallas was 12-4 last year, and I know they got everything that they wanted with the Ezekiel Elliott stay of execution. But just that they won at home on Monday night, and Denver's tough at home. Denver is tough at home.
Absolutely.
They have the best home field advantage in the National Football League, maybe outside of Seattle, because of where they are geographically located, and it exposes people, even skilled veterans on this one. So I was a bit surprised. I thought it would be a closer. I thought it would be a pick'em. I really did. But the fact that MGM is going with Dallas as a 2-point favorite over Denver, who do you like in this game?
Well, I'll tell you what. I think once the Sharps get involved here, it wouldn't surprise me if you see that line move this week to a pick'em. But I would have to say that offensive line of Dallas is pretty damn good, better than what we saw with San Diego there. You got Zeke playing, you got Des Bryant playing. I mean, you got some weapons on that team. I kind of got in a little argument with my brother about this game too. I saw that game on Sunday night, and I know New York didn't have much in the tank there, but I can only imagine, I think the ball keeps rolling here. I'm taking Dallas on this one. I think they keep moving. I think Zeke finds a way to get that run game going. I think there's going to be some dink and dunk passes going on. And it wouldn't surprise me to see Zeke get in the end zone once, maybe even twice on this game, as long as he plays. So I'm taking Dallas.
Now, one thing we have not mentioned on this: you are a self-described degenerate gambler, right?
Yes.
So
yes, I am.
When you say the Sharks get involved, what do you mean?
Sharps.
The Sharps. When the Sharps get involved, what do you mean by that?
Well, so what happens a lot of times during the week is in Vegas, what will happen is the Sharps will kind of watch the line move. So if the Sharps see something right off the bat, right when they post the lines, either Sunday night or Monday, the Sharps will either jump in if they think the line is gone one way or another too far, and they'll try to get action on the line itself, and because they'll think they're getting too much value. But what also happens is you got to remember the American public gets involved too, like you and I talking on this phone right now, and they think they're experts also, and they start getting involved. Or you have people that are Dallas fans, and you'll start to see the line move a little bit here and there. Once the Sharps kind of see what's going on with the money and Vegas adjust the lines, if they start seeing essentially value on the other side as the line moves, you'll see them jump in and start taking and moving the line the other direction with their larger bets. So that's something to be aware of as the week goes on.
Good gambling tip to take away from this.
Sharps.
It's a really good gambling tip to take away from this. Let's get to my pick on this one. I'll just tell you right now, Jeremy and you are in sync this week. As he picked that Dallas to win this game as well. I am going the other way. And here's why. I think the lack of running game that the Giants possess is something that the Cowboys have not seen for obvious reasons. They've only played the Giants.
True.
And C.J. Anderson, and outside of the fumble, which was a fumble that should have people ride the bench. Jamal Charles looks surprisingly good, for the Denver Broncos, and it seemed like he had that old Jamal Charles passion, but he also had the itis, the old Jamal Charles fumbleitis going, but still he can get the job done, which means they have depth at the running back position. So if one's not working, the other one will, and they're pretty much the same type of running backs. I think that will take the Dallas defense by surprise, and Denver at home, it's too much. I just think that they have a really good home field advantage, and I can't go against Denver at home, even though it's Dallas with everything. I think this is going to be the best game of the week. I really do. But I'm going to go with Denver only because I'm somewhat of a contrarian, and home teams. You can go wrong with the home team, right?
That young quarterback on Denver too was, he actually, if he can he made a couple bad plays in, I think, the third or fourth quarter there. Mm-hmm. But, if he could be something special here in a year or two if he kind of keeps consistently playing the way he is. But yeah, I don't blame you on that pick. I think that's a pretty safe move. I mean, I think that's why the line is 2 points for Dallas here. But
okay, the Rams come out and throttle the Colts. Now, obviously, it's Scott Tolzien Colts. It's not Andrew Luck Colts. And I don't even know if Andrew Luck could save the Colts this year, to be honest with you. The Rams are a 2.5 point favorite over the Washington Redskins. You can't tell me that the line on this, if it was week 1, would be the same. Do you think this is an overreaction to the score last week for the Redskins and an overreaction to the score last week for the Rams?
Now, I got to admit, I didn't watch either one of these games on my Game Pass, and I kind of wish I could go back and I might have to go back and try to watch the abbreviated version of these games. But yes, I have to agree with you here. I think the one thing that I've kind of heard some of the talking heads out there say is that Washington's offensive line is pretty darn bad, mm-hmm. and it sounds like that second-year quarterback there on the Rams is starting to figure things out. But yeah, you are absolutely right. They played the Colts. I don't even think the coach knew who they played on that press conference.
He didn't. Remember?
He said the 49ers came out and played a good game. I'm
that
not
is
sure
like the
who he was
ultimate,
planning for.
The ultimate slap in the face to the Indianapolis Colts. They're like, wait, he didn't even know who they were playing? You're playing us. So who do you like in this one then?
I flipped the coin on this game. I'm not going to lie. I'm taking the Rams. Okay. I'm going to take them. We'll see what happens. This might be Washington's way of not having to pay their QP that contract here if they can just get them beat up here early enough in the season. But I'm going to take the Rams on a little bit of a winning streak. Todd Gurley, man, I had that guy in fantasy, 2 years ago, and I thought he was the next Adrian Peterson. Right. And then last season he came out and he just looked terrible. So he's got some talent. He's got
a exposable defense that he's going up against this week too in the Washington Redskins. So it should be interesting to see what he does. I think I'm gonna agree with you guys on this one. Jeremy also has the Rams, and I'm going to go with the Rams, but as I'm like you, I don't know. I think the jury's still out on the Rams because of who they beat last week, but I don't want to go against the grain too much against you guys and fall into a hole, because what we have not discussed is the punishment. The punishment for losing the Red Zone Challenge, okay? Now, this is how it goes down. We're going to go to Home Depot and build the old frat boy beer bong, and the winners, meaning first and second place, get to pick out a beer. Okay, it's got to fit in a container no more than 40 ounces. So we're just assuming that this is going to be a 240 beer bong, right? 40 times 2 beer bong. We're just assuming that.
Yeah.
Are you going to have something specially made from Firestone put into a bottle of like a Hurricane Ice bottle?
I might go the Belgian route or something. No. Find something sour for you guys.
No. I was just thinking straight up content, but I didn't even think of like the sour beers. You got too much access, Ollie.
I got time to think about it too.
So
this is going to be good.
I know, because we're going to go all the way through the end of the season. So the loser in this thing has to do 2 40-ounce beer bongs from the winners, and the winners get to choose the beer that the loser is beer bonging, and that is just going to be brutal. I mean, absolutely brutal. Because we don't play nice.
Sound like a fun punishment.
No, it's not.
Sounds terrible. Actually,
this is like playing that drinking game with the biggest jerk that you know, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, we can't move on until you finish your 47 drinks." That is what this is going to be like.
I think one of us needs to look up the size of the human belly and how much liquid it can actually hold.
Well, see, I don't know about you. How are you with the beer bong?
Man, it's been so long since I've done a beer bong. God, it's been since college days here.
Yeah,
since I've had a beer bong.
And when I was in college, I was not good at it. Like, there were girls that were better at the beer bong. I would do the beer bong, and they would come out my nose. To do 2 of them back to back is going to be not a good sight. So I don't want to go too far away from where you guys are picking, and we're still learning a lot about the NFL.
That's true.
I'll be more confident in my picks as the time goes on. But week 5, 6, 7, that's where I'll pick with my heart.
Agree.
On this one, I got to tell you, I'm going with the Rams just to play it safe.
I got one quick story for you here. So when my brothers were in college, I have 2 twin older brothers, and they're pretty creative guys. And when they were in college, they were the guys that were always building things or fixing stuff up or fixing the frat house or whatever it was. Well, they did something where they went to Home Depot and they essentially got 3 5-gallon Alhambra bottles, and they cut the tops off of those, or the bottoms, I should say, off of those. Then they took those 3 Alhambra bottles and they actually took 3 hoses, and they went to the top of the roof of their frat house, and they linked those bottles together, and they had them all connect into 3 hoses, and it connected into one.
What kind of bottle is this?
Those 5-gallon Alhambra bottles for your water cooler.
Oh, okay.
So they're, you know what I'm talking? So the ones at the water cooler, those big blue water bottles, the 5-gallon ones.
Okay, yeah.
They took 3 of those, they linked them together with 3 hoses, and then they linked that into one hose with a valve at the bottom.
Oh, no.
They took it up to the top of the frat house, and they emptied a keg into that, because a keg is 15 gallons. They emptied it into the actual the Alhambra bottles, and then they had the hose at the bottom of it with the valve, and so they had a party that night, and it was like, so they was essentially drinking out of a fire hose, because you'd open it up, not only are you 20 feet up in the air with all the beer, you got 15 gallons of beer pressure, so it essentially was just blowing people's faces with beer.
Did that end okay?
Everybody was okay.
Right
Not
now,
to give anybody any bad suggestions in this world here, but I thought that was pretty damn funny.
The administration at Cal Poly right now is like, I hope this podcast does not get passed around between college students.
Yeah, maybe cut that one out for the air. So they'll put that on there.
Well, Ollie, this is going to be fun this season. I can't wait to talk to you next week, and we'll see where it is. You can follow along over at kzoz.com. You can keep updated. We'll have the picks posted for you. You can listen to this podcast and each week and come back and get your picks. See whose picking styles jive best with your ideas, and you could win a trip to Vegas, MGM Grand. You see the Jabberwockies. We gave you $500 in cash, and we thank Firestone and you, Ollie, for helping make this all possible at Firestone Walker Brewing Company. And any big events going on? I mean, are you guys, what is this another? Are you guys going to build that beer bong this weekend? Just now that Has that got the creative juices going?
I'm probably going to get in trouble at work talking about beer bongs here. So everybody drink responsibly out there.
There you go.
We have a anniversary event coming. I believe, I want to say, and don't quote me on this, it's the first week of November. I could be wrong. So we do our anniversary blend every year with our barrel-aged beers. We have all the winemakers come in from Paso, and they actually create a blend, and they actually do it in teams. So the winner's blend gets created from all the different barrel-aged beers that we made, and we'll be bottling that here shortly, and then we're going to have that big party, which is always a blast. So,
and is that what you make?
The next big event.
That's what you make available in limited release, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, you can find it in limited release.
Just in time for the holidays, of course. All right. Well,
absolutely.
Thank you, Ollie, and we'll talk to you next week, okay?
All right. It's been fun. Talk to you guys soon.